Let's get salty!
Everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and we are just about a week removed from the latest client patch that saw Battlegrounds updated last week in Hearthstone, and basically every week and a half to 2 weeks after any client patch, we should expect a balance patch in Hearthstone for Constructed, for Battlegrounds, and Worlds will be next week. So there is likely going to be a balance patch later this week or early next week, and as we always do on this channel, we'll take a look at the meta, what I think could get nerfed, and this is likely a patch that we could see some buffs as well for some of the newer underperforming stuff, which is quite a lot. So we'll go over all of that, and of course, if you enjoy the content on the channel, you want to stay tuned for when this news does eventually arrive, which I assume we're going to get something. Please hit that sub button down below, give the video a like as it helps the channel out a ton. Looking at the front page of HS Replay, which sorts ranked, standard, diamond through legend, you can see that 5 classes right now, basically 6, like 50% or better, only Warlock really struggling, and it's kind of reflected that way if we look at the actual meta itself. Like taking a look at Legend, we have quite a bit of Demon Hunter, Aggro Demon Hunter, Ravenous Cliff Dive Demon Hunter, basically the Death Rattle stuff that's been driving me crazy forever, the mid-range Shaman, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with, like Hagatha and all that. Apparently Aggro Paladin's pretty decent, although small sample size falls off at higher ranks. Dragon Warrior up there, but you can see lots of stuff at tier B as well. Elemental Mage, Control Death Knight, Face Hunter, Death Rattle DK, Protoss Priest is still there, Templar, which is Protoss Rogue, really solid at top 1000. Even Quest Hunter has been emerging. I've been agamagand by that class, by that deck, quite a lot, and sadly, at least for me, Cycle Rogue and Protoss Mage still up there. And if we look at like the highest ranks where they do balance a decent amount around, somewhat similar with Discover Hunter being arguably the best deck in the game when played like well. I expect to see that at Worlds unless there's some changes, which I think there very well could be. And you see a pretty similar picture. Lots of tier A decks, tier B with a tier C following off. And you can see like Protoss Mage falls off really heavily at the higher ranks. And we look at card popularity, which can dictate a lot of stuff as well. Elise in 60% of decks. She is ridiculous. A good chunk of the reason why going first in Hearthstone is so freaking important. Getting that 4 mana Elise into 5 mana location first is so good. And Ziliak's always being in a billion decks. Bob, Xavius, Birdwatching, Parrot Sanctuary, we'll be talking about that card, and Grifta, what a tilting card being up there as well. So if you're looking for adjustments, we don't have a particular outlier. We don't have one deck that's dominant. We just have a lot of decks that are doing quite good, and a lot of them share common strategies. So if there were to be nerfs this patch, which they honestly could look at this and be like, we don't need to nerf anything, I do think there should be some changes. But if you're looking at nerfs, it's either sentiment or a lot of these decks abusing similar play patterns, which they kind of are. But even like popularity wise, if you look at Legend, the deck wise, like mid-range Shaman is the most popular deck at Legend, only 13%. It's relatively diverse for the most part. Like there's a lot of stuff you can play, and only at like Diamond 1 where we see Shaman at like 24%. It's not a terrible meta in terms of balance or diversity. It's just, do you like playing this style? Personally, I've been playing more ladder than like all year this meta. I've said that before, so I wouldn't change a lot, but there are certainly some cards to consider. So let's take a look in our handy collection. So to me, there's not that many outliers. The biggest sentiment outlier, which I think is absolutely warranted because I personally can't stand the deck myself either. Do I think it'll get nerfed? Most likely not, but you can look at the Colossus, right? People really can't stand Protoss Mage. It has been contentious for like, it's basically almost its entire run. Protoss Mage wasn't amazing out the gate, but as everything else got nerfed, kind of took that spot. We all know Kibler talked a lot about that as well. It's certainly a possible candidate. I would not predict this to get nerfed, but if we're going on sentiment, I would say it is number 1 on the list. For me, Discover Hunter and like the mid-range Shaman strategies are really dominant at the higher ranks, and I don't think you would want to kill those decks. I think they're not the most unhealthy in the world, but I think they could use a bit of a nudge, and they both use the same card in Parrot Sanctuary. This card allowing you to cheat out in Shaman in particular, like 0-mana Murlocs, or get the bumbling bellhops, which I'm sure some people will mention should probably get changed out a bit early, and it kind of snowballs in that regard. You could play Sanctuary on 2, Hagatha on 3, a Slime on 4. It's part of that going first issue. And in Discover Hunter, just cheating out a bunch of Discover cards and getting them out really quick, really fast. I just feel like this card should probably be like 3 mana or have 1 less use. Something like that. That's something I could see getting hit. Parrot Sanctuary is the standout. Like, you could look at like Discover Hunter, by far the best card. Niall has one of the highest mulligan win rates in all of Standard, but then if you nerf this, you probably kill the archetype, and does it need to die? I don't think so, but you can look at Niall as a possible candidate. I don't think it would get nerfed, but it absolutely, if you wanted to kill that deck, absolutely could hit it. Make it like 4 mana, make the hero power 2 mana, and Rangari Scout could go to 2 mana, right? It's another really ridiculous card in that package. It's more of a high legend thing. It's, you know, not typically a deck that's really dominant anywhere else, but I thought I would mention it. But to me, it's Parrot Sanctuary is the real standout. You could also argue in Shaman that Hagatha, just how ridiculous she is. Remember, I think she started at 5 mana, got buffed to 4. It's definitely a card you could see getting hit as well. Her win rate, mulligan win rate, bonkers. Not as good as Niall though. Actually, they're really close. They're really close. So that's another card, but to me, I feel like these decks just need a nudge, and maybe it could go Parrot Sanctuary. At the end of the day, Elise is kind of that standout card that is just absolutely insane, the meta. Like we said, 60% of decks, if you're going first with Elise in your opening hand, you're winning more games than not. And how would you change that? You probably make her 5 mana, right? So you don't just curve 4 into 5. Would that kill the card? I think it would, and I don't know if you want to do that. I feel like you could make a subtle change to the card where, you know, the 1 mana copy has been contentious at times, not so much lately. I just don't know how you change this card without like killing it. And after rotation, it's going to be even better. But it's like a card that's at 60% of decks, makes all the games feel very samey, and makes going first matter so much that, yeah, maybe she just does go to 5 mana. It's certainly a possibility. Again, that would alter like every deck in Standard right now, almost, considering how many run her, but it's certainly an option. I don't think they would do it yet, but it wouldn't shock me if that happens. And I did put another 4 mana card in the thumbnail in Blobitar. There's been a lot of talk about this card with like Reddit like being sick of it and a lot of stuff. I think Blobitar as a standalone card is absolutely fine. I don't think this card warrants a nerf at all. The problem is the stupid Death Rattle package in Demon Hunter that brings it back over and over, and you just can never get through it. And this card has already led to Warlock getting nerfed. It's a part of why the Starship, the Arcanite Defense Crystal, went to 4 to 5 mana. They have nerfed around this card, as well as, I guess, to a lesser extent, Ferocious Fellbat, quite a bit, where I just think we've seen this mistake before with Hydration Station, with Bob, right? Not Bob, sorry. Inventor Boob, where if you just have 1 minion die and then you can summon multiple of them, it's an issue. I just think you should have to have 2 different Death Rattles to get the 2 Death Rattles back. And I just, that to me is a change that should happen. I'm hoping it happens. There's also, you could look at return policy as changing the card to Death Rattle card you've had die this game rather than played. So you can't just play the 5-drop, play return policy with it, or the 7 mana card as well. These are both absolute standouts. So if you're going to nerf a Demon Hunter card or nerf the Blobitar stuff, to me, it comes down to copying it with the Death Rattle package or Elise, right? I think Blobitar, that one-time deal at 4, very good card, strong card, not a broken card at all. It's just the obnoxious ability to bring them back. So to me, those are the nerf candidates you're looking at. Will they all get hit? Probably not. Will 1 or 2? Maybe. I would lean more towards Parrot Sanctuary and maybe the Death Rattle stuff in Demon Hunter, but who knows? We saw a pretty diverse meta, and we saw last summer they didn't want to hit anything for the longest time. We just had a ton of nerfs. It's possible that doesn't happen. I also want to talk about the buff side of things, because I do think there are some archetypes that could use some help. First and foremost, Priest's hand buff package has not worked at all, and they have a ton of cards that go for that. I'd be shocked if like Divine Augur, it's supposed to be the big payoff for the archetype doesn't see a buff in some way, whether it's cheaper or gets better stats, I imagine this card for sure it's a buff. You could absolutely make these locations cheaper, like all of them. They're all so bad you can make them cheaper. I don't think Medivh is bad. I don't think Medivh has a deck and it's really hard to get to that 10 mana. And you can look at, to me, I always feel like Disciple of Dub being a 2/2 is just crippling. Like, you're only getting a health buff and the 2/2 trades into absolutely nothing, where I'd almost like to see it as like a 3/2 or just something a little bit better. If we're a card that really needs to be the focal point of this archetype, it's fine. I just wish it had more stats, where every time I just feel like I'm always behind when I play it. Paladin's doing pretty well with the Aura Paladin, so I would not buff that whatsoever. And they even have like the bubble stuff. Like, I wouldn't buff Paladin. Mage, I'm gonna say they're okay. I'm just gonna say it. Arcane Mage is super toxic if it's good. And I don't know if they really should buff it. Like, buffing, like, I don't know, Syndragosa seems like a really bad idea, because it's not that far off from being good. It's being brought to like competitive. And if it is good, it's like pure scab solitaire. So I'm really scared to buff the arcade package. So maybe just make this card like a 4 mana 3/6 or something. Like, make the spell damage a bit cheaper. Or preferably make this card do something. It is so unbelievably bad, where when I've been playing Quest Mage and I cast it for free as another discover option, I'm still disappointed for just getting whatever I get. It's always bad. You could buff Temporal Construct. This card is also atrocious. And you could maybe make, I don't know, Faceless Enigma 2/3. This could have premium stats, but yeah, for the Arcane package, I'm scared to buff anything other than maybe this dragon. And we'll see. I'm hopeful that they don't go crazy buffing it, because it will become the solitaire deck of choice. Hunter, pretty good spot. I don't think you would really have to buff anything other than, like, again, all these locations in this expansion could be buffed outside of Paladins for the most part. They're really bad. The Krona deck, I mean, this card's terrible. Dodo you could have if you have 15 or less health. You could see this going to like 2 mana, this having a bit less of a condition, because like 10 is just kind of suicidal at the moment. But other than that, these are kind of things you don't want to be super amazing. So we'll see what they do on that. And some of the cards are pretty good. One change I wouldn't mind seeing to like the no minion Demon Hunter is that if it says discover a minion, if your deck started with no minions, reduce the cost of any in your hand by 2, mainly because the freaking Fabled from Rogue is really popular. Just shuts off your deck, and that feels terrible, although you take away the cycle option of like just drawing through your deck and then solituding, which again, that to me is not really how the card should work anyways. I would buff all those cards to say that, because it's just really frustrating when you face a rogue and your deck is shut off. I don't want to see them buff this card at all, by the way. This card is nuts. The deck itself just isn't amazing. What I could see is like Hounds of Fury, maybe giving them lifesteal, or I don't know, maybe making them 3/4s, making the stats a little better on the card. I don't know how you would buff these, but Hounds of Fury just haven't felt good enough to really give you that payoff. And I think you can make the Eternal Hold 5 mana to buff that whole no minion DH. I could see that happening, but other than that, probably not a lot. Death Knight's in a good spot, although none of their new stuff is really seeing play. But what are you buffing from here? I really don't see it. Like the Fabled card's fine. These cards they're whatever, right? I wouldn't really buff anything along those lines. For Rogue's doing really good. Rogue probably doesn't need any help right now. You could argue you could buff the Throne to 6 or Hooktail to be something better, but again, Rogue doesn't need the help. I really wouldn't look at buffing anything right now, and that's not just because I love to hate on Prep and Step and Rogue. Nature Shaman's fine. Like again, Shaman's doing good. I wouldn't really buff any of this stuff right now. You could argue maybe some of the nature stuff because the whole nature package isn't working, but again, Shaman's doing good. I probably wouldn't buff it. Warlock, again, like the actual Shreds of Time cards are doing all right. However, let's be real, Rafam deserves some help, right? Rafam, I would bet the farm on, is going to get a buff. Plus, they're going to sell the signatures soon. You got to buff them, but to me, green Rafam should just buff all the Rafams, wherever they are. It feels really bad that you have to buff only your hand. So to me, that would be a change. I don't know what else you'd really hit. Like, honestly, the Reform cards themselves aren't that bad. Like, you could go through each one of these and make them a bit better if you want. Only the green guy really feels bad to play for the most part. Like, even War Chief, getting a ton of armor is great. The main change I would love to see is that if Reform works, if you summoned all the Reforms rather than play them, so that Dirty Rat doesn't just auto beat you because you have 10 of these. It's really hard to dodge Rat on all of them, right? It's really difficult. So that is a buff I could realistically see happening. And yeah, the green Reform doesn't feel all that amazing. You could change this guy to be a Battle Cry draw Reform instead of Death Rattle. That could help out too. So there's options, but I would be shocked if Reform doesn't receive a buff. And for Warrior's doing great. Their set's really good. I don't know what you would buff. Like, yeah, this card's bad, but that's fine. It doesn't need to be great. Warrior's doing great. I wouldn't buff a single thing. And Neutral's the only card I'll really mention that just, it's sad, is Chromie, because she's so bad. Her mechanic isn't even interesting. She's the poster child for this expansion, and she's just kind of useless. Like, it's just weird to me. But again, we've seen so many neutrals dominate the standard metagame for so long. It's almost refreshing when a neutral isn't doing that. So I don't know. You can make it a Battle Cry. You can make her a mana cheaper. I feel like she deserves a little bit of love, but overall, without like a rework, I just feel like the card's never going to be super interesting. So there you go. My kind of predictions, talks about buffs, nerfs. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. What should get hit, what shouldn't get hit. And if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.